Hey everyone, and
One.
welcome to another night of Women's World of Fishing Monday Night Takeover. I hope that everyone is doing well, and it's actually been quite a while since we've had a show. It's been probably what, Angie, like
A
um,
month or more?
yeah, it's been
At
like
least a month.
yeah, it has been because we were off for the holiday and took a little bit of extra time off. You've been all over the country since then, so it has been quite a while. Um, but it was actually a nice break, I think, for both of us. We both have a lot going on, that we've been working on, and so but it's nice to kind of get back into the swing of things and get back into the groove, even though the season's kind of winding down and everything. But
Yeah.
you know, I I don't actually have any housekeeping stuff today, and tonight's all about you. So, it was a great way to kind of, end out with the Lady Bass Anglers Association, you making it into the championship, and it just seemed like the right thing to do with as many accomplishments as you've had this year to just make out, the rounding of the year kind of about you. So, I in the write up we kind of went over everything, just the brief. So that's kind of start at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned traveling, so tonight is actually no different. And I kind of thought, well, we can't postpone it again. Last week was the Facebook thing. It was
Yep.
down for like 6 hours on Monday, and we didn't know how like up it was going to be for the timing of our show. So
Right.
we decided to just postpone it another week. And then I'm actually had a last minute trip come up to Perdido Key in Florida. So I'm at an Airbnb down in Perdido Key this week. So, but I was like, no, we still got to do the show.
Right.
so,
Can't put it off again. They'll think that we've just totally dropped off the face of the planet.
exactly. So yeah, we took a Freedom Boat Club boat out today this afternoon from Perdido Key, and it was I always like to explore new waterways. And I also have a fondness for inshore and saltwater fishing,
Right.
and so I didn't do any fishing today. Today was just kind of exploring the area with the boat. We went from Perdido Key up to the into Alabama and kind of back around to the
Nice.
Florabama. There's like a famous bar restaurant there called
Floribama
Florabama.
Shore.
Yeah.
Were
So
they
we
filming?
no, I didn't see that.
Tag
But
on it.
we grabbed some good food there while we were there, and then we kind of went and explored the other direction for a little while we still had the boat. So it was a really good afternoon of boating, and it's always it's fun because it's different than boating on a lake. You've got the intercoastal waterway,
Right.
and lots of sandbars and things like that. So I always like to just kind of see test put my captain skills to good use, but
Yeah.
all went well. So we're gonna go out again Thursday. Maybe do some fishing. I did see some areas that I think might be good. We saw a lot of bait. We saw some dolphin, some babies. So that was cool.
So what
So
will you go fishing for if you go out?
whatever. That's what I love about saltwater fishing is
That's true.
there's so many great species. I mean, you could be hoping for a redfish or whatever, but you might get, uh Jack Creval or the Spanish mackerel or
Yeah.
just, so I usually use shrimp and like a little jig head, either live shrimp or frozen shrimp. I actually had fish from the beach yesterday, not very much because yesterday was
Mhm.
Sunday and it was very crowded. And so
Oh,
it was
yeah.
hard to find like good areas where I could fish without, too many people in the way. Um, there was a lot of stingrays, so that's usually a good sign that I think, in my experience, that fishing's going to be somewhat decent. So in the little
Really?
bit of time, yeah, I don't know. It's just stingray's a good bait. But also you catch stingray, which those they're kind of fun to catch because their wings are so wide. Like it's a good almost a good fight coming in because it's just so much like mass that you're reeling in that it feels like a really big fish, and then it might just be,
Tiny.
a small stingray or whatever. But um,
Yeah. I wouldn't wanna touch one. I mean, I'm not
so
familiar with them, but I'd be afraid to touch them.
yeah, that the first time I ever caught one, I was freaked out. I didn't know what to do, and thankfully this lady was walking the beach, and it had when I drug it up on shore, it had flipped upside down. It was laying upside down, and I didn't know what to do, and she just grabbed the edge of its wings on each side and flipped it back over. Luckily, the hook had come out by itself, so I didn't have to
Oh,
deal with
well,
that. And then she just grabbed it and put it back in the water like that. So then that night, I was like, I need to get on YouTube and figure out in case this happens again, I
right.
know what to do. And so basically what I saw was you can I think it's their ear holes on their head. You can if they're not real big, where I have small hands, but the ones I was catching, I could stick my fingers in its ear holes and pick it up that way, and then
Oh,
just keep it far enough away from your body to where you're not going to have to worry about their tails swinging around and hitting you with those stingers. Sometimes they
nice.
have more than one stinger on their tail, so that's something else you got to be mindful of. But the bigger ones, if you can't do that with your hand, you gotta pick them up by their wings, I guess.
Hmm.
So,
See, I
so
did I
anyways, I didn't. Can
oh,
be
I was just gonna
scary.
say I'm not used to anything on the salt water, so
Mm.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's and there's so much variety of fish. It's hard when you're not someone
Mhm.
who fishes saltwater all the time to know exactly what you need to do with every kind of species. Like I had
Right.
an experience this past winter where I caught a puffer fish, and I didn't know what it was at the time. It wasn't puffed up, so I didn't, if it had puffed itself up, I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, this is one of those puffer fish." But
I know
um
they're poisonous, but that's all I
yeah,
know.
and I had a bird that was stalking me, like this big heron or something that was stalking me and like kept creeping closer because anytime I caught a fish, it wanted to eat it when I went to release it. And so I was kind of freaked out by the bird. Plus, I had
Right.
this fish that I didn't know what it was, and their skin is so thick that it's really challenging to get the hook out. So I'm like, struggling. I use circle hooks when I do saltwater fishing because they're easier. You don't get gut hooked or anything like that. And so anyways, I was trying to get that hook out and
Mhm.
struggling, and I was like, "Well, I don't know." I didn't know what kind of fish it was, like I said, and I was looking at its mouth, and it looked soft, like a carp. And I was like, "Well, I could probably
Hmm.
stick my thumb in here and get a good grip on it, and then I'll be able to get that hook out." And just as I was about to do that, it chomped down its teeth, and they're like people teeth, like that style, like just really thick, like, it was creepy looking, actually. I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness I didn't just stick my thumb down in there because I probably would have lost
Right.
it."
Wow.
So, anyway, I finally got the hook out, and sure enough, I released it, but that darn bird got it. So, Dana was
Well,
pretty devastated that that happened, but
yeah, I
it was
wouldn't
a
wanna see it either. I mean,
it's
circle of life and all that
right.
and blah, 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 but, I
Well,
just
and
don't
I
wanna see it.
and I don't know enough about it, but I wonder, with them being so poisonous, how does it not affect the bird? I
It
mean, do
might
they?
have. That bird might have, sealed his own fate. I don't know.
I don't know. Again, maybe circle of life, but who's saying they want to buy my boat?
You're like
Facebook user. I just saw that in the comments. Hi, Angie. I want to buy your boat. Whoever you are, let me know. For those of you who maybe haven't watched before, this is on StreamYard. If you're commenting on Facebook, there's a setting you have to allow StreamYard to share your name with us, so
yeah,
we
and
can see.
is it the same person that said
Oh,
they
it's
wanna
Matt
fish
Matt
Cumberland?
Dillon. Could be.
Yeah, I think he
Yep.
okay. Yeah,
So
I think
Matt Dillon. Okay.
I talked to him. He was in another one. So, cuz I'll be actually going to Cumberland quite a few times probably within the next month and a half for topwater striper.
Awesome. That's
So, but I
fun.
remember talking to him about that.
I hope to get some topwater striper fishing action in this fall when I get back to Nashville. So
Where are you going
we'll
to
see.
go?
Percy Priest.
Percy Priest?
Yeah,
I didn't even
This time of year. I mean, it's not going to be probably not striper, but it'll be hybrids.
yeah.
But they start, busting the surface and schooling up, and it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm down in Florida right now. I'll be back again the first week of November for the Freedom Boat Club conferences in Cape Coral. Probably won't get to do much fishing during that week, but and then I'll be back down in the Bradenton, Tampa, on south to like Cape Coral back probably after Thanksgiving. So looking forward to that. Fall and winter, which used to be my least favorite time of year, is quickly becoming my favorite time of year. So
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you really don't have, I guess you would say, like an off season. You have like a
mm-mm,
different season,
right.
you know.
Changing it up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Summer now is so busy for me too with my job plus trying to do the tournaments and stuff. So which we usually get, a couple months off over the summertime, which is nice, but as far as
Right.
tournaments go. But yeah, so it's been a while now. I was thinking about kind of mentally preparing for our conversation tonight, and I was thinking, man, it's been a while since I fished Logan Martin. Now I got to go back and think about, what that was like to talk about it tonight. But it was my best tournament of the year. And so I felt good about that. I being it was only like 3.5 hours from Nashville. That was really, really nice because
Mhm.
all the other tournaments were way too far away to where I didn't have an opportunity to kind of go scope out the lake before
Right.
practice started. So I went down, I think it was the week before Labor Day weekend, because right after that was off limits, and so it was either the week before that or the 2 weeks before that. I can't remember now, but I did get to take a day to go down there and fish it. And so we got to see the RV park where we were going to be staying with the truck camper, and that whole kind of area there where we were staying. It was called, oh, I always forget the name of it. Crom Cromwell Cropwell Creek. That
Crockwell.
whole Yep, that whole area there. Kind of a drive from the new Lincoln Landing, which is where our blast off was taking place. That Lincoln Landing is still under construction, so luckily they were doing tournaments already out of there, but it's not completely finished, so it's a brand new area. But that's where our blast off was, and where I was staying in Cropwell Creek at Lakeside Landing RV Park, I had a dock right there by my truck camper. So I was able to launch the boat for official practice, keep it in the
So
water.
nice.
It's so nice.
It is so nice.
It's the best setup I've had, and so I got to do a lot of practice. I really got to maximize my practice time. And so that being said, I made my strategy to really just learn every little nuance of Cropwell Creek. It's a very big creek,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of fish there. And so I knew if I could just focus my attention on that area of the lake, my hope was I'd be able to at least get my limit, and then after that start heading north toward Lincoln Landing and try to get some bigger fish, because I think the bigger fish tend to be more that direction, but you weren't going to get the numbers like you could get there in Cropwell Creek. So that was
Mhm.
kind of my whole game plan. And so it was really nice. So for practice, literally, got up, try to get up an out close to first light, but some mornings it was a little bit later than I wanted to. But anyway, I got out, targeted. There were a couple really good spots that I felt like would produce well for the morning bite. One is there's this boat ramp right close to the RV park called Town and Country, and so many tournaments go out of there. So a lot of fish are released
Released, yeah.
there. And so my goal was to kind of comb that area with a buzz bait first thing in the morning or a whopper plopper, and maybe get some topwater action. And then not far from there, there was this other good area. They call it the pipe. There's this whole like tunnel that kind of goes up. My boat couldn't fit through it, but you could potentially go through this little tunnel to this other area. It's pretty shallow back in there anyways, but something about that pipe, there's a lot of fish that just kind of hang out in there. So that was kind of my second target. There's also a place across from the campground that had a lot of water willow grass, and so
Okay.
that can produce well in the morning too. And so I would try that with the buzzbait or whopper plopper. Really never really got a good topwater bite though the whole time. So um, I'll kind of get more into that, but um, so I kind of had a strategy going into it, which was nice because I've not had that at any of the other
Right.
lakes we've fished this year. And so I think that alone gave me more confidence going into the tournament. And then it was cool in practice. I'd usually fish till about noon, boat into the dock, grab lunch at the camper, eat a sandwich, take a little break till about 1. So I took like an hour break, and then
Mhm.
I'd go back out and, fish for however long.
Yeah,
So that
because
was
you're
such.
not able to do that if, you've gotta pull the boat, go, out somewhere. It's like, it's just not even worth it to do that.
Yeah, so that was such a nice setup, and if ever I get a chance to do that again on any other of the other lakes that we fish, I'm definitely gonna do that. It was also a great view. It was an amazing view from our campsite, and I probably got a little bit of extra information just being there, kind of watching boats go by and
Mhm.
areas that they were fishing and things like that. But anyway, so first day of practice was Saturday. That was my best day of practice I've ever had.
I think, like, hearing Brooke talk about it and Pam talk about it, it sounded like it was theirs too. So
Hmm.
that might have been for everybody.
And it was crazy because the lake was busy. The weather was beautiful that day, and so there were so many pleasure boats out, lots of wake surf boats, and
Hmm.
the big game changer for me that I was so glad I did this, but I found a seat for the front of my boat that I haven't had a seat up there this whole time, because where the pedestal is mounted is so close to the front of the bow of the boat. It makes it really hard to balance or work your trolling motor, your foot pedal. And so I took it out, and I had since Ray Hubbard, I never used the seat up there.
Okay.
But I found a pedestal that kind of curves back a little bit, so it kind of gives me a little bit extra room. And then I stumbled across this seat called, it's like a saddle, and can't remember the name of the company now. It's like Millennium or something like that. But they make a lot of hunting, like deer stands and things like that. And I'm like, oh, this would be nice because I could turn it long ways like a saddle and
Right.
kind of, get a little extra balance that way. Plus, I can sit back even further, giving me a little bit more room up there to work the foot pedal and stuff. That was by far probably the biggest game changer for me in this entire tournament.
That is awesome, and I bet you there is not a lot of people fishing that know that that even exists. Like
And
that, you should do a review on that or a little video because that is awesome.
Yeah, and that day, Saturday, with all them wake boats, I rode it like a saddle all day. That gave me the best balance.
I
But
can
then
imagine.
on the calmer days, I'd sit on it the other direction, so it was just
Yeah.
kinda more like my butt just sitting on it. But what was funny is after I bought it, I started reading the reviews on Amazon, and, like, the 3rd or 4th review down was like, "Thank you, Gerald Swindle, for recommending this seat." And I was like, "What?" So I Googled it, and he's a huge promoter of that, and
Really?
you know how we're buddies, and he's one of my favorites, so I was like, "Well, that's just meant to be."
Yeah,
So,
I need to send you one of the cowboy coffee chew hats so that whenever you're on there,
yeah.
like with the saddle.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, because I did that on your boat the one time when we were coming in and the waves were really big. You know, I always do that when it's real bad, shaking my hat because of him, but
I ought to
that
get another one of those seats and put it in the back for my co-angler, so that might be something to look into, but
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna look that up. I have a full seat up front, and I
mhm,
won't stray for that. But man, that I would like one of those in the back of my boat,
mhm.
because I go back and forth, and I'm always taking it, taking out the front, my dad is taking the front out, putting it in the back, and that would be a good little rest seat.
And it was comfortable too, and so I never had any fatigue, in my back or my feet the entire time, and it being a 3-day tournament, I was a little concerned about that because I've not fished a 3-day tournament before, and
Hmm.
usually by the end of day 2, I'm, like, hurting,
Right,
and so
and
with
the practice
this.
was longer.
Right, yeah, practice was longer, and so I never had any issues, so but, so Saturday practice was really cool, like, pretty much every spot I went to, I caught fish. I was hoping that maybe there'd be more schooling going on than what I
Hmm.
saw, and, I guess it was just still a little early yet with the weather and whatnot, it was still, pretty warm, so that wasn't what I was hoping for, but I was prepared. I had stuff ready to go in case I did come up on some schooling bass, but, um, so I think it was Saturday. Trying to remember now because so this was also the first time I ever practiced fish by myself. All the other tournaments, every day of practice, I've had a co-angler with me. And so I've been wanting to do this all year because I just wondered, this is my first year as a boater, and I just wondered if I would make different decisions if I was by myself because I'm always thinking about my co-angler. And I'm like, are they bored? Should we move to a different spot? We're not catching anything. Like, if it were me, I'd probably stay here a little longer, but, like so it was cool getting to practice fish by myself and then having that success on that first day. I mean, I
Right.
think I easily caught a limit on the first day of practice and I'd not caught a limit yet in all the other previous tournaments. And so that was really reassuring, I guess. But I think it was Saturday that I stumbled upon this spot that when I looked on my graph up front with my live scope, there were literally fish everywhere and tons of bait. And I couldn't figure out why they were there. I just kind of stumbled upon it for no reason. And I was like, this is looks like something special. So literally first 2 casts I caught fish both times, keepers. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave this spot alone
Yep.
and see what happens. I mean, granted, this was Saturday. The tournament didn't start until Thursday,
Yeah.
so a lot could change between then. And so I think it was Sunday. I practiced fish with Charlotte. My day might be off by one. I'm trying to remember if that was Sunday or Monday, and maybe I stumbled across that spot on Sunday. But anyway, the day I practiced fish with Charlotte, and we knew we were fishing together on Thursday. And so with me having
On
an unconventional boat, she wanted to practice fish with me one day just so she could kind of get used to the boat
Okay, because
and
she was
cast.
day 1, right?
Yeah, day one
Okay.
was she was my partner day one. And so I told her I found the spot. We're not going to touch it today. Just know and be ready for Thursday that if it's still active, I was catching them on a Ned rig and it was one after the other. So, and it was a white Ned rig. Like everything I was using was just trying to imitate the shad that they were feeding on.
Mhm.
So, so that was my next practice day. I had a few blow ups on top water that morning, which was the only time I ended up having top water blowups. So that kind of threw me off for the tournament because I was like, well, they were biting, and um, so I tried that like the morning of the first couple days, and just that was just kind
Right.
of a waste. But anyway, so that was that day, and then practice fished Tuesday. Wednesday, I went out. Wednesday, I changed it up a little bit because that was the day of our meeting. And I wanted to. Oh, the other thing I did with Charlotte is we did run to Lincoln Landing just to kind of see what that run was like. And that's when I decided for the tournament, we're going to have to pull the boat and launch from the blast off site because it was 25 minutes of a
Oh, of
run.
a run.
Yeah.
You
And
would
I
have had
didn't.
to do it in the dark.
Right, and I didn't wanna deal with that, and if there was fog or whatever,
Yeah.
it's a river, there could be debris and stuff like that, so that was a good decision. It was much better launching from Lincoln Landing than making that run in the dark, so and save boat fuel
Well,
too.
that's true.
So we did that, and then so I had a few spots that I kinda marked on that side of the lake, so if I needed some last minute holes to hit making my run back for weigh in, I had some options to hit up that way. So that's what I focused on Wednesday. We actually launched from Lincoln Landing and I kind of hit some of those areas that I had graphed out. So my trolling motor kind of screwed up that day. So unfortunately, I didn't get to fish a whole lot. It was mostly just kind of scouting out these different areas that ended up being late for the meeting, which was awful. I was so nervous. I was like, oh no, because it was originally supposed to be 5 o'clock. And I guess there was an email that went out and said they changed it to 3 o'clock. And somehow I just didn't catch that.
Yeah,
So
it happens.
so they text me. They're like, "Where are you?" Alyssa Johnson, she was watching earlier. I don't know if she still is. But she texts me. She's like, "Are you okay? Are you coming to the meeting?" I'm like, "Yeah, just about to get ready." And then like I get a text from Cheryl, and she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, I thought it was at 5 o'clock, and it's like close to 4 at this point. And so she's like, no, it started at 3. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just literally like threw some clothes on, like, because this is the classic, you kind of dress up a little bit
Right.
and mapped it out on the GPS. I'm like, I'm gonna be there at 4:18. So,
Not 419, 418.
yeah. So we got there as soon as we could, but everything was fine. Um, so yeah, so then day one of the tournament with Charlotte. Oh, I forgot to mention, I couldn't help myself. I did go back and check that spot one more time during practice just to see if the fish were still there. And
I mean, it does make sense because a lot of time had gone by, and if there was
yeah,
you
then no
couldn't find a
reason to.
reason why they were there, I mean, it's a good possibility they wouldn't be there.
Right, exactly.
So I get that.
Yeah, so first cast caught one. I'm like, okay, good.
You're like,
So
yes.
yeah, I was, but you're still nervous because then it was still another 2 days before the tournament started, and anything can happen. And
Right.
from the campground, every time a boat went that direction, because I could see, I'm like, please don't find that spot. Please don't find that spot. so so anyway, first day of the tournament, Charlotte and I, we did hit those top water spots and didn't
Mhm.
have any luck. And so after that, we went to that spot because my goal was let's get our limits early as possible, and then we'll start making our way and try to find some bigger fish.
Yeah.
Because I knew the majority of the fish in that area. A lot of them were keepers, some of them were short, but we probably weren't going to get any monsters. Could possibly, but
What was the limit or the limits for Logan Martin? Some of them look like, I mean, there were fish weighed in under a pound, so I'm assuming the 10-inch spotted bass limit was,
um, can I
it had to
remember?
have been a 10-inch spot.
It was the same, I believe, for both
Oh, for
largemouth and
largemouth too?
spots. Yes, I believe so.
Under
And
a 12-inch largemouth?
I think it was,
Well, maybe. I don't know.
if somebody's watching and remembers, let me know.
I would, if I had to guess, I would say probably a 12-inch largemouth and a 10-inch spot.
It was the same for both because I remember not having to be worried about telling the difference between largemouth,
Oh,
which it was actually, it seemed really easy to tell the difference on Logan
it
Martin.
was, well, it might have been 12, but some of the, I mean, there was like the small
Small.
bass was like 11 or 12 ounces or something like, I mean, it was little.
I feel like it was 12 for each, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
Maybe, but
but but anyway, so first we get there and it didn't look as busy as it had before, and I was kind of like, oh no, it's not going to be good. And we fish it for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we were like catching them one after another, and it was so much fun. And
nice.
yeah, some both of us, and some of them were short, but some of them were keepers. I think I put 3 keepers in, and Charlotte put 2. And I was like, all right, let's give this spot a break for a little bit. I've got some other areas to try in this, Cropwell Creek. Um, and then if we don't get our limits, we'll come back here and hopefully finish up our limits, and then we can go target some bigger fish. So we tried some other areas, and luckily both of us got our limits. Um,
Nice.
and so that's when we headed north. We hit this area that one of my neighbors on the dock grew up in, this place called Poorhouse Branch, and I had
Nice.
hit that one on that day. I went up that direction just to kind of check it out. And so we went all back in there, trolled the whole way back, and didn't catch anything. And so I was like, all right, check the live well. Uh, the recirc pump wasn't working, and it was running, but it wasn't actually pumping out any water. And Charlotte didn't know enough to listen for the water or to say anything that it wasn't actually recirculating water. And so my big largemouth died. And
Oh,
so, yeah. And
well,
so
and it might have been too noisy with all the traffic to even hear whether or not it was running at any time.
I think the biggest issue, because the spots did amazing and the largemouth were a lot more sensitive, and I had 2 largemouth that day. They both
Oh,
ended up dying, and I
mm,
think I filled the tank up in the morning and I put some ice in there, and I think maybe the water was too cold for the largemouth.
really?
And so, and that
Yeah.
with, and also the recirc pump not working right. And
Yeah.
so I called Larry, the tournament director, and it was only like 12:30, maybe approaching 1 o'clock. And I was like, we both have our limits. I've got 2 dead fish. I think I need to weigh early because I don't want to risk
Right.
having any more penalties, especially when I found out it was a half a pound per dead fish. And now I already had a pound penalty.
Right.
Um, so I made the
Which is
decision.
that's tough.
Yeah. And so, like, at the end of the day, if that hadn't happened, I finished in 12th, I would have finished in 10th place. So that pound hurt, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, it wouldn't put me in the money or anything like that, but still, to say I had
Right.
a top 10 finish in my first year would have been cool. But
Yeah.
So
I
we
mean,
made the
and for your best tournament, to have been for the during the championship and the classic, I mean, not just finish wise, but just your overall confidence. I mean, that's awesome,
it was
you
my
know.
first limit that day one of the whole year. Sucked that I didn't get to weigh in with everybody else
Yeah.
with a limit, but it is what it is. And
Well, just so everybody knows,
yeah,
I think that everybody I think everybody found out whenever they came in. I think that they announced that you had weighed in early, or
yeah,
Charlotte told everybody or something.
yeah,
Uh, because well, no, you told me. I guess that's how I found out. But um, and another thing, I mean, that you have to be super duper proud of is, sometimes when pros get up on stage, they're like, well, you know, my co-angler did great. You were one of the three that had the co-angler champion.
yeah,
It,
absolutely.
without you, who knows what would have happened? She had one
So
of her best days with you.
yeah, so
Her big fish.
I was really happy for my co's. Charlotte, getting her limit the first day. I was happy for that. And
Mhm.
then the second day, I had Brooke Johnson with me, and we
Killed
went.
it.
She killed it.
She did
She
with
she
everybody.
she outfished me, and I can say some stuff because she said it from stage after after she ended up winning first place on the co-angler side. But that day, we went to that spot again, and I
Mhm.
think, trying to remember if I just started there that day since the top water didn't produce, or if we did try a little top water. I think we did try a little top water, and then we went there. I finally learned my lesson the third day, to just go straight there, because why waste your time when you're not having any luck with the top
Right.
water thing. But anyway, day two, when we got to that spot, it was definitely even less active than the day before. So it was slowly dying off.
Mhm.
We did pull a couple fish off that spot that day. So, but it was very few and far between.
Yeah.
So, but Brooke, man, she crushed it on a wacky rig, which is her thing, and she's so good at it, and I'm not. So when she was catching fish behind me on this wacky rig, and I just haven't fished it enough. I did try it, but she's got that touch.
She was very when you were actually in Colorado hanging out with, hand feeding elk and stuff. But when I was holding down the fort interviewing Brooke and Pam Martin Wells back here, Brooke was very candid, and she talked about, how both days, she had to have that green and the watermelon or the
Hmm.
red flake in it. But she said it was, one day they wanted it, wacky rigged, and I forget, the other day was I don't remember the other one. It was a Ned rig, um,
Yeah,
wacky rig.
she did fish the Ned rig. That's not her normal thing, but in that spot where I was catching all those fish off a Ned rig, she was, using that. She missed a lot, trying to set the hook, and so that's something that I'm sure she'll work on more
I
down the road.
I think she had said that she was doing a wacky rig and, maybe a weighted wacky rig, or like a
Mm,
weightless,
mm-hmm.
but she said that, it was basically same bait, different presentation. But, even Pam Martin Wells, I mean, she was just like, "This girl is dangerous with a daggone, Cinco," like,
Uh-huh.
and so you know, I I'm really glad that, you were part of that journey for her, because,
Yeah.
you know, that's something for you to be proud about too. She had to do all the work for her, but the
I put her where the fish were
right.
to
And
catch. So,
because I know that most of the pros, most of them that we've had on here have said, like, I worry about the co-angler and stuff like that, and ultimately it's our responsibility. No matter
mhm.
how you shake it, like day in and day out, it's our responsibility to catch the fish, you know but we know how much you guys stress about it. So you did good there.
Yeah.
And
Um,
congratulations, Brooke and
yeah,
Pam, again, if you guys are listening or watching.
absolutely. Yeah, so that was a great day, and I'll be candid here. I literally caught all my fish through the entire tournament on basically 3 baits, 3 presentations. So, one was probably my most, other than the Ned rig. I did a little white Ned rig and small Ned head jig.
Mhm.
Um, but the second one that I probably caught the most fish on throughout practice and the tournament was a robo worm, and it was the Aaron's Morning Dawn color, which is kind of like a white on one side, a purple on the other,
Mhm.
with a shaky head. And
Okay.
yeah, that was like my second uh, most uh, caught bait. And then finally, the other one was a crankbait. I was fishing the Berkeley Fritzside 5 in any kind of shad color pattern. So it's a
Yeah.
newer bait. I think I got it at the Classic 2 years ago. It had just come out, and I think it's supposed to imitate a balsa wood crankbait.
Oh, okay. 2
Um,
years of fishing bait that's 2 years old, that's like
right. Yeah.
you know, the
I
way
still,
that
to me, it's still new, but
it is, I'm just joking. It just seems like there's constantly, just new stuff and new
hmm
stuff, which is good and, you know,
yeah.
also very overwhelming.
Y- Oh, absolutely. So going into day 3, I was sitting in 7th place. I was pretty happy about that. I mean, you think
Yeah.
about the field and these ladies that have been fishing this tournament, trail for a lot of them since it started, which has
Mhm.
been over 10 years ago. Like, I was pretty happy to be where I
And
was
they
at.
came from the WBT before
Right.
that.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Mhm.
So so yeah,
Yeah.
going into day 3, sitting in 7th place. It was still pretty tight too. So I was really hoping to have a good day 3, but I was nervous about my little honey hole, being that it was kind of dying off day by day.
Mhm.
And I had Dana Raybon with me that day. So, um, and she's a really good co-angler as
As soon
well.
as you as soon as you said her name, I just remembered what happened.
Yeah, so there's a little story there, but we went to that spot first thing. I didn't mess with top water that day, and it was pretty dead. And so I was really bummed because that was kind of my little, um, bag of tricks there at that
Right.
spot.
Faithful for your
Yeah,
yeah.
to get at least some keepers in the boat first thing, and then that kind of takes the pressure off. It just changes the whole trajectory of the rest of the day. Think
Oh, definitely.
I want to say I got one off that spot, but it was like just not producing. And so we tried some other spots. I went back in this one creek that I fished during practice. I didn't catch anything, but there had been some rain, and I was kind of hoping maybe there'd be some incoming water back in there that because it was raining. I mean, we got drenched on day 3, like absolutely soaked to the bone. Like neither one of our rain gear did what it was supposed to do. We were absolutely soaked. And
Really?
I wish I didn't bring my 100-mile-an-hour suit, but as cold as I was, I wouldn't imagined being able to wear that, being, that it was hot. But I was freezing on day 3 and wished I had that 100-mile-an-hour suit.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I was
It must have been really
dreading.
windy and everything too.
It wasn't super windy. It was, I mean, the temps were cooler, and I think just being soaked to the bone, it was just chilly. And
Yeah.
so I was really dreading that run back to Lincoln Landing at the end of the day. But luckily the rain let up by then, and it wasn't so bad. But anyway, yeah, so Dana, she did pretty good. But the worst thing that happened was, so we went in that area where that I called the pipe, and she landed a huge largemouth, and it was pouring down rain, probably torrential downpour at that point. And there's a road right there that goes over that pipe, and so there's traffic. And I had my hood on, my raincoat, and I could not hear anything. And she's kind of soft spoken, anyways,
Yeah.
but she was hollering for the net, and I didn't hear her. And she tried to boat flip it, and it shook off the hook. And so she potentially, I think, if she could have got that fish in, she maybe could have won on the co-angler side, which that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Poor
And
Dana.
so luckily she got redemption and got another one. We kind of trolled that area a couple times before we left. And this time I didn't put my hood on because um I'm like, that ain't happening again. I don't care. I'm already soaked to the bone. This hood ain't helping me anyway. So
Right.
I left it off so I could hear. And by some miracle, she hooked another huge one, and we got it. That was a crazy experience. I
Wow.
mean, it was jumping, and I think
Did
I'm
she yell louder that time?
I heard her. I don't know if it was louder, but I heard her that time. And I almost missed netting it the first time it jumped again, and then we got it. And I was like, "Oh, thank goodness." So she
She might have, like, jumped in the water or threw you in the
maybe
water.
maybe,
Oh,
but my heart was racing. That was a really cool experience.
that's
So,
awesome. Dana's
yeah.
she's amazing. I mean, she's great as a co-angler. She could be, you know, boater anytime
Oh,
that she
yeah.
wants to, but she's just a great girl, fun to be around.
Yeah, and she was sweet. She wasn't mad at me at all. She
Mhm.
knew absolutely I could not hear her, and
Right,
so it was just the situation
right.
of, that heavy rain and the traffic and my hood, and so unfortunately that happened. But I'm sure I'm sure it's haunted her somewhat,
Oh, yeah.
but she did great. I mean, she caught that big one, and she had another one. She didn't get her limit that day. I think I only ended up with 2 that day, and so
Yeah.
that's what got me the 12th place finish. But overall, I was still really happy. I'm excited for next year. They haven't announced the schedule yet, so I'm kind of antsy about that. Ready to start kind of planning things and get our reservations made and all of that. So
Yeah.
hopefully we get that soon. I don't know.
Oh, I think it'll be out pretty soon. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember when it came out last year, but I think it'll come out soon,
Didn't
you
it come
know.
out like at the classic last year or right before?
I think it was a little bit after the classic.
Of course, Truman Lake,
It's
that was later. It wasn't till sometime in October,
We
right?
are in October.
Well, I know we are now, but
Oh,
this
I'm
year's
like, "Wait a
class
minute, is it?"
this year's classic was in September, whereas
Okay,
I
yes.
think Truman Lake was in October.
It
So,
was it was in October, that's true. Um, but no, I think that some of the cities, that are being considered, I think are doing their budgeting meetings and stuff like that, um, like at the end of September for their fiscal year for next year.
ah,
You know, I don't remember where I don't know if I read that or if I heard that, um, but yeah,
it
I'm
could
not
be.
really sure, but I think it'll be out pretty soon because
Yeah.
everybody's gotta, make reservations and, stuff like that,
Yep.
but, well, and I definitely want you to, to mention your podcast because I mean, you just the last 2 years, I mean, you killed it with the podcast. I mean, this year it wasn't even really close, which is
Well,
good.
yeah. It was a lot of pressure, especially because the voting was happening during the whole Logan Martin tournament and practice fishing and the tournament itself. And so it was nice not to have to be so uh,
Right.
distracted by, trying to get enough votes to get the distinguishing honor again this year. But you were instrumental in helping me get it that first year, and I look back and we had to get like over 3,000 votes that first year. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
right, and it was I mean, right up to midnight, and, like, I remember being like, well, I was being, like, real, like, "We're gonna do it, Angie. Don't worry. We're gonna do it." And I remember, like, "Okay, I'm gonna message the music family," because
Yeah.
I was on to the ISSAs, and, I think that's probably the group that I drew from that
Hmm.
really, like, pulled through for me because a bunch of them last minute pulled through with a bunch of votes, but it was just crazy that
Ugh.
year.
I was like, we're never doing this again.
But
and
we
then
did.
and then it comes again around again the next year, and yeah, it was a little more relaxed. I think we won it with like 800 votes or something like that.
Mhm.
The next closest one, which is Angie Thompson, which I really hated competing against her because I've had her on my podcast before. She has a great show called the Fishing Business Podcast. I highly recommend people listening to that, especially if you're trying to be a tournament angler, because she has a lot of great guests on and advice for getting sponsors and things, all the things that we all need help with. So I was kind of like texting with her in the beginning. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, but she's kind of not as big into like promoting herself as have tried to be, and so that kind of helped a little bit, I guess. But
Yeah. Well,
definitely,
and we were prepared for it
yeah,
because
right,
I was watching it. I had done, like the Facebook, the Twitter post, the TikTok video, and then when you were down there, so I was watching the votes to see if there was going to be like a big push,
yeah,
so we were kind of prepared for it too in case, you know, they were going to do anything crazy there at the end. We weren't going to
right.
let you lose. No way.
Well, yeah, and, so I got to go to Colorado. It was Estes Park, Colorado, for the Outdoor Media Summit. We didn't have one in 2020 to celebrate that 2019 win because of COVID. So it all just kind of got lumped into this one
Mhm.
conference. And the conference was really cool. Met a lot of different people. It wasn't really a typical outdoor, um, what I've been used to going to, where it's mostly focused on fishing and hunting. There was pretty much no hunting at all and very, very, very little fishing. And so it
Really?
was a lot of camping, hiking, um, RVing, just kind of any kind of outdoor adventure. And so it was a totally different group of people. It was cool to get connected with them. And I think it's good that like my podcast ended up winning, because I think it probably helped introduce more of a fishing element to it, which I think
Mhm.
hopefully will grow. They sent me an email today, I think it was, or maybe yesterday, asking for suggestions on how to improve it for next year. And that's going to be one of my big suggestions, is to incorporate more fishing. But the coolest part of the conference was on day two, we did this big scavenger hunt in Estes Park. And they had different stations set up with different vendors and things, and we had to do different activities at each one as we found them on the map, and we had to walk to wherever we were going. And one of them was a fly fishing thing. So there was some fishing involved. It was in a little stream there. And I think it was a technique called takara, I believe, which is a Japanese. fly casting, where you have no reel. You've got like a 13-foot long rod and your line, and it was braided line with a long leader and then a little fly, which the fly didn't have a hook, just so nobody accidentally hooked somebody if they didn't know what they were doing. But I'm not big into fly fishing. I've done it very, very little, but they had a cornhole, like a small cornhole board set up, and the contest was you got 10 casts, and to see how many times you could either hit the board or landed in the hole. If you landed in the hole, you got 50 points. If you hit the board, you got 10 points. And we kind of got to that station by the end of the day, and I was kind of nervous about doing it because I'm the angler of the group, but I'm not a fly angler, you know.
You're
Anyway,
like
anyway, I ended up hitting the board 7 out of the 10 times, and he said that that tied for the best of the whole day. So
nice.
I
So
was
you
like,
didn't
cool.
disappoint.
Yeah. All right. Good. So that was kind of fun. But I got in over 20,000 steps that day of the scavenger hunt. So
Wow.
lots of exercise. Of course, the air is a lot more thin up there, and we did do one climb, not like climbing, like, but a hike up a steep incline to get to this one station. And yeah, you could definitely tell that air is a lot thinner. You're you're breathing a lot more to get
You
the
you
oxygen
should
you
have
need.
been like, I don't hike.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
fish.
Yeah, is there an alternative here or whatever? But no, that was a lot of fun. The scary part though, so at the end of that day, we had a big dinner at this restaurant downtown Estes Park, and we so at the end of the scavenger hunt, we walked to this restaurant. So, it was like a pizza buffet thing, and it was cool. And I was chatting with some people, and then it was getting kind of late, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna walk back. I don't remember it being that far back to the hotel. And as you mentioned, there's elk just hanging out in town, like, and it's the rut, and the bulls can be a little aggressive, so you got
Yeah.
to kind of be careful. And so it's pitch dark out at this point, and I'm walking back to the hotel. Well, it ends up being way more further than I remember or thought it was, because we had jumped around so much during the scavenger hunt. And I'm like, I get to this stretch that's back to the hotel, and it's not a lot of lighting. It's pretty pitch dark. And I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm like, I don't know if I should be walking back when there's like elk walking around, and you know,
I have a
uh
cousin in Utah that got treed by an elk,
oh
and
yeah.
he scaled that tree.
Nah,
Like,
um,
it's really dangerous.
I probably wouldn't be scaling any trees either. So
Yeah, they
so
will
anyway,
straight up kill you.
yeah, so I turned around and I walked back. There was like this area that had a shopping center with like a Starbucks and stuff, and um I'm like, I'll see if I can get an Uber back to the hotel. Well, there's not really any Ubers or lifts
Well,
in Estes Park. So I'm like, okay, here's my choices.
I
Just chance it, try to get back to the hotel, or
Uber.
book it back to where the restaurant is. And I was pretty sure they probably had shuttles taking people back. It went till like 9 o'clock, and I was just tired and wanted to go back early. And so I decided to book it back to the restaurant. And on my way back, I ran into this couple I recognized from the thing, and they were walking back to the hotel. And so I was like, "All right, I'll walk back with you guys. So at least we're in a group, and it feels a little more safe."
Right. Yeah,
And
that's
then,
definitely a good call.
yeah, so that was a crazy experience.
This is what happens when you turn a fisherman loose in the woods hiking.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's funny. Well, the picture that I saw, like, I kept looking at it and I'm like, are they all really sitting around on rocks while these elk are just like chilling by the campfire with them? And so I kept looking thinking that it was fake because I don't know, like, it just seemed like it would be a postcard that was photoshopped because I mean, it was just a gorgeous photo, first of all, but secondly, I mean, I love like deer and elk, to watch and stuff like that, but I'm not trying to pet, one of them big elk,
Yeah.
and they were
No,
that close to people.
absolutely. Yeah. And then one of the funny things that happened on the trip, I made a post about this as well. But while we were finishing up the scavenger hunt and walking to that restaurant, I saw a Lance truck camper rig go by that I recognized from Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the Cummins camper. And so I messaged because I follow them on Instagram and message them and I'm like, hey, I just saw you drive by. I didn't know you were in Estes Park. That's so cool. And then
They're
they
probably like, "Creeper."
no, and they said I said I'm here for the outdoor media summit. Um and they were like, "Whoa, we were just at this restaurant and got kicked out because this group of outdoors people were having their," and that was the restaurant we were having our big pizza buffet at.
Oops.
So it was kind of ironic, but they ended up coming out to the hotel, the Ridgeline Hotel where our conference was the next day, and I got to meet them. And so that was really cool. They're probably going to be in Nashville sometime this fall, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up again. But when we were talking, they went to that area in my picture with all the elk that day, and the husband, I think his name's Eric, said that his wife got way too close to one of them. Like nothing happened, thankfully, but yeah,
Right.
people just get right up next to them and get photos, and they're just hanging out. Just it's so crazy to see.
Wow. And but what's cool about that story that you just said, like with them with like the Lance camper and stuff, and you sent them a message and they come out and everything, is like it just goes to show like the community. I always say like the fishing family, but now like the hiking and so I guess just outdoors people in general. Like
Hmm.
I swear it has to be one of the best social media communities that there is, you
I
know?
think so, and Eric, if I got his name right, I'm pretty sure his name's Eric. He was messaging me the next day about, well, we talked a little bit about fishing when we met up. He loves to fish too, and
Mhm.
so when you travel in a truck camper, you're kind of limited on how much gear and things you can
Right.
bring with you. And they travel a lot out west and stuff, and where these the that fly fishing technique we use called takara was, it's really good for like shallow streams and
Mhm.
stuff. And so the guy that taught us that, I think his name was Wang. He said that the it was Wang. What was his name? I'm thinking of Runkle.
I was gonna
um,
say,
yeah, shoot. Anyway, not important, not super important. Important, of course, but um, he said that he rides a motorcycle a lot and his Takara rod folds up and he carries it on his motorcycle. So it unfolds to be a 13-foot rod, but it's portable enough. And so I was telling him, the truck camper guy, about that. I'm like, that would be perfect for you to carry in your truck
right.
camper because it won't take up any space at all. And a lot of these areas that you travel through, that would be a great technique to use. So it's kind of cool. All things just kind of
That is
come
cool.
together.
It just seems like everybody's just so willing to like reach out and help and connect, each other to each other, and like it's just a great community.
Mhm.
We're really lucky to be a part of it, you know.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
So, when we were gonna do this show last week, you had a giveaway, and you did that, and so there's not a giveaway tonight, correct? It was just for when it was supposed to be last week.
Right. And she's actually the winner was Tammy Parrish, and she did send me a message. She received the package today, and she's gonna hopefully send some pictures of big stuff that she catches with it. But she'll be posting, on Facebook about it. But she did get the giveaway. So
Awesome.
looking
Good deal.
forward to that. And I have some ideas for possibly for the next one. So we'll see about doing that. So
Good deal.
yeah. Um I'm looking at the thing. Did we leave anything out?
I think we covered what we were going to talk about, the tournament and the outdoor media summit. Oh, next year's outdoor media summit is North Lake Tahoe. So
Really?
hopefully
Oh,
we'll win again.
I
and
I know that from pictures that I've seen, and I have family that goes there every year. No place more beautiful.
supposed to
So
be some good fishing up that way too. So that
yeah,
would
you
be
definitely got to win next
awesome.
year. You're
There's
like, yeah, I do.
Well, there's some pretty big
So
podcasts that are involved in this outdoor media summit, so we'll see what happens next year. But one of them is the what was it? The Adventure Sports podcast, and they get like millions of downloads a year, which is a little bit more than what I get. I mean, I get tens of thousands, but not millions. So that could be some stiff competition if they end up getting in it.
yeah, but they don't know what they're up against either. Yeah, we'll just have to
Absolutely.
start the voting a lot earlier next
Yeah.
year. And yeah, we'll we'll get a head start on that because that could be dangerous, but
Yeah.
they don't know what they're messing with. If
We
you
shall
guys are
see.
watching.
Yeah, right. We shall see.
Oh, well, good deal. Well, we should be back on schedule. For back on the Monday schedule, as far as I know. It could be a little bit, you know, back and forth for a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to talk because here soon I will be um doing the Lake Cumberland thing where we're going down there, and so if I have a good enough connection down there I can probably still do it, so we'll have to figure that out. But as of right now we'll just consider it good until I know.
Awesome.
So all
Sounds like a
righty,
plan.
everybody. Well, for everybody that's still signed on, thank you for watching, and we will see everybody next Monday. So everybody have a good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.